Ropes up, stand by for the start. In the gate for the $1 million Rico Woodbine Mile. And they're off.
And we're off.
You know that music? It makes me feel like I'm on a ride at Epcot. Because
yeah, we're slowly going up, and we're about to just careen down.
Right? So how are you doing, everybody?
Good. It's the freaking weekend. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to another special edition of Woodbine Live. This is your Rico Woodbine Mile Preview show.
Right.
I'm Dan Tordjman with America's Best Racing. She is Ren Carothers. I pointed the wrong direction. She is Ren Carothers. You know her from the Breeders' Cup Future Stars Forecast. Down below, our good friend J.D. Fox, back with us again this week.
Looking gallant.
Looking gallant.
Hey,
gallant.
I gotta try to, look good, feel good. That's what it's about sometimes when we're getting into a big stakes weekend. And obviously this coming weekend is one of my favorite weekends of the year. Woodbine Stakes racing, it doesn't get better to me than that. So excited for the 3 Breeders' Cup win-in-your-ends, and the one we'll be focusing on today, of course, the Rico Woodbine Mile.
Yeah.
So let's set it up for you. We got 2 races to go at Woodbine today, the 8th and the 9th. We're going to get into those races. We're going to give you some picks so you can bet. We can bet with you, and we plan on doing that. And we're also, throughout the show, we're going to look at the Woodbine Mile a bit. We're going to go through the field. We know that Ren has her favorite all picked out sentimentally.
Oh, yeah.
But she'll give us a trifecta, so she'll have to think beyond War of Will.
I have to, you guys. Come on. Anybody who follows me knows that I have a connection to this horse. So if I go against that and then he wins, I will feel like a complete idiot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, that's like with me with Bodie Express, right? Like I just keep betting him, even though I know. Well, I guess a little different. Even though I know he's going to lose, War of Will is actually like a really good horse.
Yes, he absolutely is.
So
the price isn't exciting, obviously, but he's a tremendously talented horse, a Grade 1 winner on dirt and turf, and he's got just a tremendous personality. Also, we might give a little tease of why I say that later.
Yeah, well, we're going to show some of that. So let's do this though. We've got the 8th race coming up. I see now as I'm looking over to the left, race 7 is just about entering the stretch. So that race is over. We're going to bring in the video once the horses are in the paddock for race 8. But for now, JD, do you want to set up race 8 a little bit? And then we'll have some time, I think, to move into the Woodbine Mile after that.
Yeah, so they've been riding some really interesting allowance conditions at Woodbine, and I think race 8 is a fascinating one that if you're wanting to handicap this race, you really have to look at the 4 ways you can get in, and you can probably eliminate some horses right off the bat based on that. So
yeah.
I'm going to try to make this clear and concise. But
all right, if you're watching at home, pen and paper or whatever you're using, take notes. If you have questions, ask the questions. You've got the comment section. If you get lost with any of this, ask questions. That's what this is for. Go, JD.
So opportunity 1, have never won $9,000 twice other than maiden, claiming, starter, or restricted allowance.
Yeah.
Now, since at Woodbine they're only writing restricted allowances now, you're basically saying, okay, to pass this condition, you have to have not won more than $9,000 twice in stakes action, whether that be a graded stake, a black type stake, that sort of thing. So that's condition 1. Condition 2 is never have won 3 races. That one's pretty cut and dry. Have you won 3 races or not? Condition 3, which have not won a race since September 18th, 2019. So again, there's a time restriction on this allowance as well. Or the claiming price of $62,500. So I can go ahead and tell you right away, you don't even have to look at the PPs. Nobody's in for the claiming price. So we're focusing on these 3 conditions. And what we see is a mix of horses that are running very well at allowance conditions that fit this. And then we see stakes horses that have not won in a year. And it's a fascinating mix of the 2, Ren.
Yeah. Definitely. He was breaking up a little bit there. I think
Yeah, and I accidentally played some sound over him, so I messed that up for everybody. So, all right. So having worked through that, you do have a number of horses here that are coming in from a couple of different places. So you've got a horse who's been recently graded stakes tested. You've also got some horses who are even though they're most recently that they've been running an allowance level company, they've looked really good in that company. I also thought a fascinating dynamic of this race was the pace and how that might unfold. I didn't see a whole lot of it on paper, but you've got a couple of horses who could certainly go early, including Super Success
and Boreal Spirit.
And Boreal Spirit.
Exactly. I mean, I think if you look at Boreal Spirit, the problem with that horse, he had, was going 2 starts back. That was awful. Then the start prior to that was bad too. But if you look beyond that, he showed speed in the past, and then he'd been off from November to July 30th and showed a little bit of pace, running second, half length off your pace setter. And maybe we will see him move forward off that effort. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I landed on Piven. I'm just going to throw that out there now.
Did you? You are such a Cassie homer. Like anything Cassie. You love Cassie.
You know what? Honest to goodness, this will sound crazy. I don't focus on the trainer so much. I mean, if I'm between 2 horses and I need something to tilt in favor of one or the other, then I'll kind of take that more into consideration. But I don't really. Matt Carothers and I are very similar in that regard. The connections don't really sway us unless we're torn between 2 horses.
All right.
And I think going back to the conditions, hopefully everybody can hear me a bit. I checked my internet; things look good, so we'll keep an eye on that. Is generally speaking, as we go down and climb down those 3 conditions, the classier horses are going to be fitting that 3rd condition, which have not won a race since September 18, 2019, which sounds counterintuitive, but if you think about it, it means that they have a lot of stakes success. I mean, we look at the 7 and the 8 have cashed 17 times in stakes races, but 2 of the likely 3 choices here, the 4 and the 6, have they've only had 1 big cash in a stakes race. The 4's got a win at $50,000. The 6 has a win at $46,000 US, which I'm not going to convert to Canadian since all of the allowance conditions are written in Canadian dollars. But they're getting in this race over the very first condition, have never won 9,000 twice other than maiden. So what you have to take a look at, from my standpoint, is you look at the form of the 4 and the 6, which is probably the best form going into the field, and you compare it to the class of horses like the 5 and the 7, and you have to make a determination whether you're on the form or you're on the class, and that's why I love these type of races, Ren.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, and I went obviously based on form, because I hate saying the phrase that we hear some people talk about with, I don't trust it, or I don't trust this. Mm-hmm. I don't trust the prior form right now, or the prior class. So that's why I want to go with more of the immediate form. I do think it's interesting that in regard to Piven, blinkers are going on. In that last race, Silent Jimmy, the winner, was next 8th, 3.5 lengths off of Pink Lloyd in the Grade 3 Vigil. He got an 87 buyer for that effort. Circle of Friends got the Shodo and an OC 62. Got an 81, and then the horse who was second to last in that race, Salieri, he was next a length second to Reconfigure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those races, if you go back, the cool thing about Woodbine Live, we've done this show all summer, is that we've seen a lot of these horses run. We've seen Reconfigure, we've seen Salieri. Salieri, notoriously, obviously, he's a speedball. It's going to go to the lead. When he's been loose, he's been tough to catch. When he's faced some pressure, he's been catchable, just like happened last out with Reconfigure catching him late. But he's a very game horse, a very honest horse. Reconfigure is always coming, and for me, I think that's why I played him. I think the pace might heat up. I think Super Success, will go, and I do think Boreal Spirit. I mean, the only path to the winner's circle is going. Justin Stein jumps off, I believe, if I'm remembering this correctly, was riding. Rode Super Success last out and rode him with speed early, is now jumping over to Boreal Spirit. Well, not jumping over. I mean, he rode Boreal Spirit as well, but opts for Boreal Spirit. So you can make it that way you want. Stein just won at 9-2 here in the 7th race. He's the hottest jockey on the planet as far as I know. I mean, nobody's winning at a higher rate than him right now. It just seems week after week he's just racking up wins. So, look, he opts for the horse on the outside. I do think Super Success, though, when we talk about class, Super Success is a horse you can look at, even though he's not running graded stakes races, he's got a lot of Pink Lloyd in the running line. He's got some good horses he's been running with. And I think he runs honestly. And I also have a feeling that this move back to the turf here is going to be to his liking. I think, again, if he gets the race to go his way, he's a horse who usually shows up, and he's run a couple of really nice races over the turf at Woodbine. So Super Success is a horse that I would keep in your combinations, reconfigure on top, and Blind Ambition, again, going back to class. This is a horse coming out of a grade 3 race. Prior to that was the grade 2 Connaught Cup, ran third there. I think they're probably, they were looking for an opportunity to give him a little bit of relief. I think this race maybe comes up a little tougher than they would have hoped, but it's still very manageable, I think. And I think if there is that pace up front, Blind Ambition is also a little pace dependent. Mm-hmm. I think Blind Ambition is going to run a big race here. So I ended up 4-3-7 in the 8th race.
And I'll just say real quick. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, with betting open, we're seeing wide open. I mean, basically the 7 opened at 7-2 and is now down to 3-1 as the favorite, 2-1 morning line. And we see 9-2 on the 4, 5, and 6. So really open betting to start. And some people really follow that early money. You follow the early money, you follow the late money is the phrase that's always said. But very interesting to see how open the public sees this race right now.
Yeah. All I was going to say regarding going again back to Piven, I also throw out that turf start at Gulfstream Park just because the turf at Gulfstream, which is lovingly called the DURF by some people, is a far cry from the lush turf course there at Woodbine. So that's another reason why I just throw that race out. He looked flat there. He was taken back at a mile. Now he's coming back at the 6.5. I just really like him in this spot. And I do, again, think it's interesting. The last 3 starts he's had have been with Lasix. He now also has blinkers going on.
I'm going to end up on Dundrum here, the 5 horse. Right now, currently 5-1. I think really Dundrum and Piven should probably be lock in step as kind of tactical speed horses just behind the 2 pace setters. And Super Success and Boreal Spirit, it depends on the duel they get, but I think those 2 are going to be the horses that get the first run. And you have to look back a little bit. We have not seen Dundrum on the turf since the seasonal debut on June 11th, which was just a very flat effort. They tried to rate the horse. Emma Jane got aboard the next time in a stakes race and rode Dundrum to the front in what was admittedly a pretty slow pace at 40-1 against Pink Lloyd and wound up third, beaten just 2.5 lengths. Looking back at that effort, a repeat of that, I think, is very competitive in this race at 6.5. Mm-hmm. Obviously came back in the Bold Venture and disappointed, ended up fading at the end of the race. So I'd like to throw the Bold Venture out just based on the outside move, and that was a day that another Woodbine live host loves this phrase, windbine, but that was definitely a windy day where the outside was compromised, tried to make a big outer move and flattened tremendously because of that. So I'm willing to toss that race and say that the race on July 23rd, if Dundrum can run back to that race, is very competitive and I believe should win this race from that standpoint. So I'm on the 5 here. I do think if Super Success holds on, I think Super Success is the better of the 2 speed, and right now the speed horses, the 3's 11-1 and the 8's 12-1, so not getting a lot of respect, the 2 bottom choices in the market.
Right on.
Dundrum 5-1, so taking a little bit of action off that 8-1 morning line. The 1 horse is right about where they pegged her on the morning line, 6-1 now, 7-1. Fact checking. What did you make of fact checking? I mean, this is one who again won a first level allowance last out, going 6 on the turf at Woodbine, has a couple of good races. I mean, but it hasn't strung, 2 wins together, I don't think ever. What do you make of this one? This one's just always there, but, doesn't win often and did last time. Has she used up her luck? Is that how you approach that one?
I look at it 2 ways here. She hasn't run 6.5 furlongs since her 3-year-old campaign. So this is definitely a stretch out. Mainly been running the 5 furlongs, stretched out to 6 last time and won 6.5. We'll see. Obviously not a horse that's on the pace, so you might say that helps her. But, and against the boys here, I think given the numbers that we're seeing out of that last race, I think it's an uphill battle. I think both of the females, the 1 and the 2, definitely have picked – I don't want to say picked a poor spot to tackle the boys, but this is a very competitive, very salty field. And since neither of them have a pace advantage on the field and neither of them are the best closer in the race, I just think they're going to be mid-pack plotting the whole way, unfortunately. I'd love to make a case for either of them because I'm always rooting for the fillies against the boys, as we'll find out later. That's foreshadowing, Dan.
Oh, I think somebody might be talking about a starship. I don't know. But no, I agree with you. I am a proponent. We see it all the time over in Europe of fillies and mares running with the males. The thing is, we've seen nothing here between either fact checking or misbehave that tells us that they can even dominate their own gender necessarily. So going up against males who are more physically dominant, I agree that this is not the best spot for them to try it out.
Okay, fair enough. Misbehave, by the way, 20-1 on the morning line, taking a good amount of action as well at 10-1 right now. Super Success, 11-1, 12-1 on the morning line. Reconfigure, I think, if anything, in terms of the early money, probably one of the more lukewarm horses on the board right now. 9-2 off the 5-2 morning line. I got to believe that price is going to come down a little bit. Like I said, he's in good form. He's 8 years old, but he's a warrior. He's always there and always battles. Dundrum, the one that JD likes, 8-1 morning line now, 5-1. Piven, 5-1 or 4-1 morning line for Ren Carothers to smile on her face and
my play of the day won today, by the way. Although I can't brag about it.
Who is that?
Well, I do Woodbine
play of the day,
which you can check out on their website. But I can't get too excited about it because it was Bell Bimbo. At 4 to 5. I can't do it.
I hate that name. Like we've had that horse is run in so many races. And it's a male horse too, right? I mean, I guess that's better, but it's just weird. It's just a weird name. Anyway, Blind Ambition, the 7 horse, 2-1, just like the morning line, and Boreal Spirit, not taking the Justin Stein money just yet, but I would imagine is going to get pounded late to about 7 or 8-1. I would imagine by the time the gates spring open. So that was your setup for race 8. We're going to come back and watch this race in a few moments. But in the meantime, what I thought would be fun to just start things off as we start going through the Woodbine Mile field, and we're going to start covering this race now. We're going to go horse by horse. I thought it would be cool to look back at something we're calling a backtrack here. We've got a Woodbine Live backtrack, and this backtrack goes way back. It goes back 7 years ago to one of the most classic runnings of the Woodbine Mile.
As they arrive at the top of the stretch in the Rico Woodbine Mile, and Johnny Velasquez gives the green light to Wise Dan, and his response is instantaneous. And Wise Dan has taken the lead, and they come to the final furlong. Za Approval in a full-out drive in second. Johnny hasn't moved on Wise Dan. Wise Dan, here he is, the titan of the turf, the sensational Wise Dan.
He's just awesome. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I get the pleasure of watching you react to these videos whenever they're up.
Oh.
We got to get picture-in-picture so people could actually watch you reacting as if it's like it's actually happening, like you're seeing it for the first time. Your joy when you see these races is incredible.
Thank you. Well, he's another horse that I've been very blessed to be able to be up close and personal with, and just so cool. But the thing also about him, how many horses have you ever heard of that come back from colic surgery to win? And the thing also, what race was that? I can't even remember his comeback. Which was his comeback race?
I don't remember which race it was exactly. Well, I mean, like I said, lots happened in the past couple of years.
Well, I can check it. I can check out the lifetime PP because I can't remember off the top of my head which was the comeback race, but I definitely remember that not only was he coming back from college surgery, but his coat was still off looking color-wise, but he was still fit. I mean, Lepresti's not going to run his horse unless he's 100% in that regard. And he still won. And that's just a testament to absolute innate talent and heart.
Greg Charkoudian, who's running the controls in the back, has passed along the information, the maker's mark at Keeneland.
There you go.
So,
unbelievable horse.
Absolutely.
I was just pulling up the chart on that race. I was Greg, as always, just slightly ahead of me here.
Just one step ahead.
Do you know the interesting thing, too? I remember Charlie at one point saying as talented as Wise Dan was, like successful Dan was, too, his half-brother.
Yeah. Let's do this. I think the way we'll do it is I want to go Ren, then we'll show the next race at Woodbine, and then after that, we'll have JD give his input and insight on the Woodbine Mile. So, Ren, you start us off. Tell us how you see the Woodbine Mile shaking out tomorrow.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think that we're going to see, because I know you were talking about this earlier. I personally, and I'm never going to tell an owner or trainer what to do with their horse. I personally would have left Admiralty Pier in the Singspiel, where I do think he would have been lone speed.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That hurts me. You don't even know yet. That's my top.
I'm sorry. I do. I feel like we should have left him there. He would 100%, in my opinion, been like lone speed. No problem. The problem I foresee is that the lightly raced Sherrill Spite, I think he's faster than potential. I mean, I know we've only seen him race twice, so the jury may still be out. And I know it's hard to compare day to day with times. That being said, he's bred to be faster, being by Speightstown, and he's shown that he's got that type of foot. Now, the other thing that's really interesting about him from a pedigree perspective, and he's not my pick, but I just want to put this out there because I envision basically he's either going to press Admiralty Pier or he's just going to get the jump on him, period. Sherrill Spite actually has some ped cred here specifically for the Woodbine Mile. As we already know, he's out of Perfect Sherrill, who won the 2011 Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf. But do you remember that Perfect Sherrill is a half-sister to Woodbine Mile winner Shakespeare?
Oh, I did not know that.
So there's a little bit of is this all in the family, right? Yep. But here's another fun fact for you, because if you then look ahead to Sunday's card in the Natalma, you've got Lady Spitespear, who is out of Shakespeare's full sister. So we've got a connection from Woodbine Mile to the Natalma, which will be interesting to follow. But in any case, so I think those two are going to show speed.
Which we'll be getting more into, by the way, on Breeders' Cup Live tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow.
Starting at 4:30. We'll get into the Natalma this summer, in addition to the Rico Woodbine Mile. Continue, Ren.
Yes. So I cannot go against a horse that I've got a close connection with, whom I've hung out with multiple times, and who likes me too. I think he really does like me. And I'm talking about Warville, of course. See, look at this. This horse loves me, okay? You know, I've seen him with other people. He can be nippy, whatever. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I like to think he just likes me more because, you know, Joe Christopher went and saw him, and who was it, Ryan Martin, I think, and they joked around about how he, you know, was sassy with them, but he loves me, and he's just a sweetheart. And I mean, it's really impressive when you see a horse who is a dual Grade 1 winner. He's a Grade 1 winner. Obviously, we saw him win the Preakness Stakes on dirt. Then just coming out and getting 100 Beyer and getting the nose on the wire in the Maker's Mark Mile. And
is that why you're kissing his nose there? Because he won you some money with that?
No,
like, was this nose?
I was trying to give him a pep talk here. This was ahead of the Breeders' Cup Classic, which you know, it didn't work out for him. But in any case, and then there's also just an incredible pedigree. This is a horse that when he goes to stud, he's going to be very attractive. Not only is he beautifully conformed, but the pedigree is insane. He's by Warfront, as you know. And then his dam, Visions of Clarity, she's by Sadler's Wells. She's a 3/4 sister to Spinning World. Spinning World was second to De Haas in the 96 Breeders' Cup Mile. And then in 97, he won the mile. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's just a class pedigree. And it gets even so much more deeper than that. I mean, it eventually goes back to some really good dirt horses, actually, like Best in Show and all of that jazz. But I won't confuse the viewers right now. Let's just stick to talking about turf incentivizing pedigree. And there you have it right there. Just a really classic horse. Now, if you're going to get more into it, I do not think you're going to get 6-1, but what I would do to play some exotics, value proposition. How do you overlook this horse for Chad Brown, crying out loud, right? You look at that race right there, that last out. Got Stormy was 4th in that race. And as we know, she went on to be 2nd in the 4-star Dave, got a 103 buyer. Then she got a 101 buyer, cutting back and scoring by 3 1/4 lengths in the Lady Sprint at Kentucky Downs. The horse who was 5th that day, Hawkish, owned by our friends, AB Suited. Next, 2nd in the Oceanport Stakes. And then when you look at that race 2 back, the runner-up, Cross Border, set the pace next out in the Grade 1 Manhattan. Then it was 5th. Length off Instilled Regard, got a 100 buyer. Then he won the Lubash Stakes, followed by a next 2nd finish from Sadler's Joy in the Bowling Green, got a 100 buyer there. Then 2nd in the Grade 1 Sword Dancer. So that was a really nice horse. I love Dan Silly. Dan Silly is class all the way. When you see him in a pedigree, and here in this case, he's the sire, look out. Dan Silly, like sire of Dank, sire of oh my gosh, Flintshire. Broodmare sire of the last 2 Breeders' Cup Mile winners, by the way, in Expert Eye and Uni. So Dan Silly is awesome. Those horses already showed talent, so I would use him also.
Well, while we're on value proposition, we do have a Woodbine Live backtrack to the Poker Stakes, which you mentioned last out, where value proposition looked like he had a real shot turning for home, but you'll see that it ended up being pretty interesting in mid to late stretch.
Got Stormy and Dream Friend, and they are right together. Value proposition. On the outside is Seismic Wave. Hawkish is looking for a way through. Valid Point is down at the rail as they pass the 8th pole. It is Got Stormy. Here's value proposition. Here's Seismic Wave. And here's Social Paranoia on the outside. And Social Paranoia picks up the pieces to win the poker.
I'm curious what both of you think of that. I mean, obviously he was lugging in, and I've watched the previous replays. He does that a lot. He kind of, he's cocking his head. He's kind of unruly, just running all weird. What do you make of that action, Ren? And then JD, I know you like the horse as well, so I'd like to know what you make of that, and if that's a significant concern.
Honestly, it's not that big a concern to me. It's not cheap to ship a horse anywhere, even if you're in New York just going up to Woodbine. Chad Brown's got a huge arsenal of horses that he could have sent here. This is a prestigious race. This is a win and you're in. If he didn't think he has this horse right and more fit, that was back on July 4th. I'm not concerned about it. I think it's just a matter of, mentally getting him straight.
Yeah, I think you look at that race in particular, there were 2 cases, one near the 8th pole, one near the 16th pole, where the whole horse really wanted to bear in. And I think that was a learning experience. I mean, it's a Ridgeling that got a late start at the races. Every race still is a learning experience, and I think value proposition probably learned a big one there. My interest there is Luis Contreras gets the mount. Normally, Starship Jubilee's house jockey at Woodbine. That's very interesting to me about who chose what first there.
That's a good point.
Ren also mentioned the allowance win a couple of races back over Cross Border, who has since come back to win the Grade 2 Bowling Green via DQ, finished 2nd in the Grade 1 Sword Dancer. I think he's running in the right races. I agree with you. I think that he's a horse who has like incredible raw talent and raw ability. And I think that the other thing is, and JD, I know you follow the circuit closely, but with the configuration of the turf course at Woodbine, it's extremely spacious. Horse tend to fan out in the stretch, and I think not having other horses to lean on will actually help him, and he could just get to the business of running. That's my take.
Yeah, really, at this point in the season, this is kind of the best conditions we're going to see this turf course. We're going to see the rail at the best position for this race to shine. So I'm not concerned with the bunching that we saw there as well, and maybe the bearing in and out was due to the bunching. I mean, that was a very tight. But the end of that meet was very much a bunch of horses trying to get 2 lanes on the turf course. So that might have also factored into that very easily. And that's something, obviously, I'm used to seeing in Australia, where if the outside part of the track is good, all the horses will run on the outer rail versus the inner rail. So not to that extreme, but obviously, having the wide open ground should help the horse.
There's no way you're going to get 6-1 on him, though.
Probably not. Yeah, probably not. I mean, look, it's a deep field, but people will see Chad, and the horse will take plenty of action. And in addition to the entire case we just laid out, but there will be a lot of sort of blind Chad Brown betting.
So tell us how I hurt your feelings now.
Oh no, we're not there yet. I'm gonna build that up, but that's later. I'm suppressing all this emotion for now, and I'm just gonna explode later on.
I have a couch here if you want to fly in. Oh, I can't move out of the way. You can lay here and tell me your problems. I'll sit there in the stadium chair.
I might need it after this weekend. But so interestingly, and people watching right now can see on the bottom of the screen, Cheryl Spite is your third horse. And It sounded like Cheryl Spite was part of the reason why you couldn't get too high in Admiralty Pure. You thought maybe Cheryl Spite would be the contesting pace. Also wanted to mention with Cheryl Spite, the horse debuted on the turf and really trounced a special weight field that included Belichick, who came back to finish a strong second last week in the Queen's Plate.
Exactly.
From there, Cheryl Spite made his second starting Grade 3 company. So let's go for a quick Woodbine Live backtrack to that race, the Marine Stakes.
Spite opens the lead in the Marine Stakes to a length, Untitled in second. Lucky Curlin on the outside making a little headway and dotted line, but inside the final furlong, Cheryl Spite's lead is 4 lengths. Lucky Curlin finishing on, but Cheryl Spite still hands and heels, and we have a new star on the horizon at Woodbine. It's Cheryl Spite. How good is this horse? Untapped and untroubled to win the Marine Stakes.
And the other thing is that dotted line, you just heard the call there. Dotted line was third that day. Went on to run third again, but just a half length off Clayton in the plate trial. And as we know, Clayton just went on and ran third in the Queen's Plate.
I'd be interested to see the board on this horse. Just because, obviously we know the horse is under Kentucky Derby consideration recently as well. Just for casual players who might see the name and wonder, okay. We know that the upside is there.
It's still a tough ask for a 3-year-old to go up against older horses like this.
I totally agree, which is why I'm playing against. But let's do this. We do have a race coming up from Woodbine, the one we just previewed a few moments ago. So let's see if we can get that up on the screen. There it is.
5-2, now 2-1.
I just put 20 to win on the 5. I think 10 to 1 is a gift in that situation. So I'm just playing it as simply as possible, not complicating it. If the 5 wins, I win.
There's been a lot of movement since we had the screen up. Namely, Reconfigure, the horse that I like, the 4 horse, took a bunch of money since we had this screen up, down to 2-1 right now, and 7 now, a very clear-cut favorite. Blind Ambition was 6-5, now 8-5. Here you go.
And they're off. The first out was Boreal Spirit from the outside. Misbehave began sharply. Boreal Spirit making a beeline towards the inside casually. 2 now by a length and a quarter. Misbehave, a length to Reconfigure. Blind Ambition, Dundrum, Super Success, Piven, and last on the rails fact-checking. So everything began very nicely for Boreal Spirit. A length Misbehave coming away from the hedge on the outside. Reconfigure is third, and Dundrum sneaks up the rail. Then Blind Ambition, 1.5 to Piven. Super Success second last, and fact-checking at the back. Boreal Spirit through these fractions in front by 23 the first quarter by a length and a half. Misbehave second. And on the outside, Reconfigure shades Dundrum, a length to Blind Ambition. Pivot on the inside, then fact-checking, and last, Super Success. Boreal Spirit still in front as they come down inside the final.
This might be robbery right here.
15
to 1.
Dundrum
the
inside,
Reconfigure's there.
Pivot making ground, and down
Sped
the
up a little
outside,
bit.
Blind Ambition running on. And behind them is fact-checking and Super Success. They bunch. Boreal Spirits come back to the field. Blind Ambition goes up now. Reconfigures in the center behind them. Fact-checking and Pivot. It's Blind Ambition narrowly in front.
Big run on the outside. Fact-checking.
Blind Ambition and Reconfigure. Blind Ambition finding plenty. Blind Ambition much the best. Blind Ambition a length. Reconfigure.
I had the wrong Cassie horse.
That's right.
But I mean, come on, 9-5.
And Boreal Spirit wound up at the back. 114.83.
Well, it was a Cassie horse. So.
A Cassie, right. So, but there you go. Boreal Spirit did move forward off that.
Well, look, I mean, I think,
Effort,
again, looking at those splits, I mean, he went really fast in that second quarter. I mean, he went fast in the first quarter, but he went really fast in the second quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 quarters in 1:08 and 4.
No, that's
I
not
think
much in the tank.
Stein was riding with some confidence there. I thought once he got loose and once Super Success didn't break and he was loose on the lead, he probably had an opportunity to slow things down there. But as I said, a bunch of times this week, and I said last week as well, Stein has been untouchable. I mean, so if his clock happens to let him down a little bit every once in a while, you're not going to take any shots at him because he's been riding lights out. And
you mean they're not machines who are perfect every time?
That's what Twitter actually says that they are. I don't know. I mean, that's what I've heard on Twitter. But
let's see the start here from the.
Yeah, did they make a conscious decision to just not go with Super Success, even though it,
I don't know. It didn't look like anybody had a poor start.
Yeah. No, I mean, it seemed like he broke pretty cleanly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and kudos to the filly, or the mare rather, fact checking, getting up
nice
for
run.
third.
Very nice run on the outside. JD, any takeaways?
Yeah, I mean,
This is money out of his pocket. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I mean, it was $20 I will use my least favorite phrase in horse racing. Hey, that 5 outran his odds.
There you go. Right on.
Yeah, that doesn't help with the
doesn't.
putting dinner on the table, unfortunately. But no, it was a good effort. I mean, the horse was right where I thought the horse would be. It was just, the 4 and the 7 in much better form, and the 7 really got the job done there. I mean, to an extent, that was a very, very high quality allowance race. That was basically like a listed stake. So, that's a good win for the 7 and something that, the 7 might be able to improve off of. And the other thing we have to look about that we didn't really discuss about the 8 is, 8-year-old gelding with speed. We might have to see a change of tactics if this horse is still going to run, because we might be nearing the end of the ability to stay on that motor.
He might be wanting to get mommy.
Ren, we showed it's. No, that's cool.
But you know what? It's true though. Just like mares, sometimes it's time they want to get to the shed. Their focus leaves. It's not so much that his focus is leaving, but maybe he's lost a step. But sometimes studs the horses get a little distracted themselves, get a little studdish. Especially when there's some other mares in the mix. I'm not saying that's what happened in this case. Obviously, I just think this is a horse who's just not able to.
And he's a gelding, so he doesn't have much to look forward to.
Oh my gosh, what am I thinking?
Hanging out on
I'm
the
thinking
farm.
of, what? The 7 is still a horse, right?
Yeah, 7's still a horse.
Okay, well then, Boreal Spirit's not worried about any cojones problems.
This conversation is going to a place that I like.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I don't like, but okay.
No,
Make this segue happen, Dan. Come on, you got it in you.
Which reminds me, before we went live, Ren had some interesting remarks about JD's appearance.
I was like, he looks so much younger. I'm not saying that he looked old before, but he looks like even younger now.
I want to remove myself so it's just a 2-box and you guys could just hash this out. What do you think?
Give him full screen. What are you talking about? Get me out of here. Give him full screen.
So I shaved because last time I was on the air with Ren, and this did have something to do with me shaving. I was accused of having a neck beard.
I did not accuse you of having a neck beard. I was asking if you had one, and I wanted to see if you did.
Because there was a certain trainer that day that had a bit of a neck beard issue on some interviews.
Dale rocking the neck beard. It looks
with
good.
the mask.
Sometimes it looks good. It looks great. Dale Roman rocks the neck beard. He does.
Let me ask you a question about neck beard. Is neck beard like shaved but like leaving neck hair? Or is it the
it's like where the beard? It's where like the beard extends.
It just extends
goes
down
over the chin, and
some of us,
neck beard. Lift your. Go like this, Dan. Let me see.
Lift my what?
You got a bit of a neck beard.
What am I lifting?
Your head back.
I've definitely got neck.
You got neck beard.
And I trim down here. I have to trim down here. I'm like Moroccan. Do you know what's going on in Morocco? Do you know what the hair situation is like out there?
I'm half a Rocky. Yeah, I have an idea of what it can be.
You see some hairy chests and backs. You know those genes. You know what that's like.
Yeah, which is hilarious because these are warm weather climates. You think that we'd be prone to have less hair, right?
To no one's surprise, our viewership is plummeting. So
no, let's bring it back.
It's actually
I'm
decent.
talking about horses that aren't actually horses intact. I'm talking, we're talking neck beards. Let's focus.
We've shockingly retained viewership through this. And as I was just looking up, I saw in the U.S. Open a golfer named Patrick Reed is leading, nearing the end of day 2 of the U.S. Open.
You think people are watching golf instead of us?
Well, I mean, you could do both at once. That's the beauty of us being your second screen source here. I mean, that's what you do. You keep us up on the computer or your phone, and you watch golf on TV. So that got my gears turning. I was like, Patrick Reed. We have a Patrick Reed at ABR. Different guy. We have a Patrick Reed. He writes articles for us. He edits our content. He works on our website. He wrote a piece this week called Betting War of Will in the Woodbine Mile Trifecta, and he lays out some ways you could actually bet War of Will and make some money in the Woodbine Mile. So first, check that out. Second, Ren, since I know you gave us a trifecta that starts with War of Will, how would you actually bet this race?
Oh, that's basically, I mean, that's the thing. It really just comes down to how much you want to play. I mean, I put the win wager down, Will, because
I want to play $50. How do I play?
You have $50. Okay, well then, basically, how do I want to work this out? I don't know. However your $50 is, I would say put 20 to win on Will. Mm-hmm. Okay, because
I mean, we get at least what, like 2 to 1, maybe 5 to 2. Are we going to get that?
I think I don't know that he's going to go off as short as some people think.
Okay.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible that he stays around those morning line odds, just because of the fan factor. Mm-hmm. I think so many people are going to see the Chad Brown horse in there and bet him down. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, $20 to win on Will, and then just put the rest. Like, I'd say, I like playing things straight generally, unless it's babies, because then you never know what's going to happen. And then I like to box my tries.
Yeah.
So with this, if the pace scenario plays out the way in which I think it will, no pun intended, I think that Cheryl Spite puts away Admiralty Pier, then starts to fade, gets passed by Will, gets passed by a value proposition. So I say just play the rest straight on the track.
All right. So again, from Ren, it's War of Will, value proposition, Cheryl Spite. JD, I noticed.
Although wait, you know what? Actually, no. I would box the 2. Key the 2 in a box over
War of Will. Now you're doubting War of Will.
No, not over. Like War of Will and value proposition
with Cheryl Spite. Got it.
And then over the rest. Just shake it up because I think those 2 are the top spot.
Okay, so you would be surprised if it wasn't War of Will or value proposition winning. Bottom line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I like Cheryl Spite. I just feel like he's untested. This is a tough older group. I think he will show a lot of heart and a lot of talent. I don't think he wins. So for me, it's between the 2 on the top there. So
I would be shocked if that horse won. I mean, and the horse is, let me see the morning line and Cheryl Spite, 8 to 1. Okay. I would be shocked if Cheryl Spite won. I would. I mean, I really would.
I do think he's going to make a good accounting.
Yeah, he might run an honest race.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, if you just can flip the 2 over, like Will and value proposition, or it could come in value proposition as the winner, Will as the winner, and then, or either one in second, with Cheryl Spite locked in third.
Yep. That sounds like a logical way to play it. We do have a couple of questions coming in, and one of them that came in was about the 6-horse Admiralty Pier. I promise you that I have some opinions on that horse, which I will share shortly. JD, though, I noticed your selections do not include War of Will. Tell us more about it.
Well, I will say part of this might be due to the fact that I knew I was working with Ren, and Ren was going to go crazy for War of Will. With that said, I do think that there's a chance that War of Will can be pace compromised. And we've seen a couple times in the last 5 races where War of Will on a contested lead has given it up late in the race. Now, mind you, one of those is the Breeders' Cup Classic, so I'm not holding that against War of Will. But I do think there's a chance here with Admiralty Pier, who everybody else thinks, everybody thinks maybe, was going to be lone speed in the other race, but I can't fault the connections here. You have a $150,000 grade 3 that took a big purse hit, and you've got $1 million grade 1. I think you have to do it with an 8-horse field. I think Admiralty Pier, and I think Sheryl Spite is very interesting in that pace dynamic as well. And we've talked a lot about the morning line, and I think Sheryl Spite very interesting on the morning line as well, and we'll talk about that. But my top pick is Starship Jubilee, and really, obviously one of the most beloved horses in the last probably 20 or 30 years in Canada. Obviously, trying the boys for the second time in her career.
Last year, right?
Yeah, Canadian Horse of the Year last year. Trying against boys for the second time in her career at age 7. You look at why she's placed in here. Well, she was the 2-time defending champion of the Canadian, which was ran last weekend. She's the 2-time defending champion of the EP Taylor, which is going to be run in a few weeks. I don't think she needs to prove herself in that scenario again. And she's won basically every race that Woodbine has for non-Canadian bred horses, being a Florida bred. So I love this position, and I love the fact that this horse is so versatile. I think based on the pace dynamic that we've talked about a little bit on this show, I do think that Starship Jubilee is going to be stalking, but what we've seen, and she can overcome trouble too. And we look back at the Boston Spa, she hit the gate at the start, first call, she was 13 lengths back of the field, came back and won by a neck. And that was such an impressive performance, but hitting the gate and running that hard late, I mean, that probably took a lot out of her. So I'm willing to excuse kind of an even performance in the Diana where, I mean, to be honest, she just kind of ran in place for the 1 1/8. I think the cut back to a mile is good for her in this spot. And I do think that with the pace dynamic up front, I do think she has the ability to pounce on her foes late. So Starship Jubilee is my top choice. And speaking of the Boston Spa, I think we have another one of those backtracks.
We do.
North Broadway, here's Call Me Love, here's Starship Jubilee, and on the outside it is Sister Charlie as the field comes down for the 8th pole. On the inside, Call Me Love, and on the outside, it is Starship Jubilee. Starship Jubilee now takes the lead from Call Me Love. Sister Charlie is in 3rd. They come for the finish in the Boston Spa, and it's going to be Starship Jubilee to win it by a head.
And that was a great closing performance. Again, was 13 back, then 5 back, and then took the lead head of the stretch and held on there. I talked about this earlier, but the other interesting thing here is we've talked a lot on Woodbine Live about Justin Stein and how he's really been competitive and looks to have a firm second place in the jockey standings at Woodbine. And he's taking the mount on Starship Jubilee over Luis Contreras, who has been obviously the top jockey at Woodbine and has been Starship Jubilee's previous jockey through pretty much all of the Woodbine starts. So that is an intriguing aspect of Starship Jubilee that I don't think it's a concern, but I think it's something to definitely look at. And Kevin Attard knows what he's doing. I'm not going to question that. March to the Arch is a horse we haven't talked much about as, you know, sitting in that wonderful spot of being the other Cassie, but in this case, not being the other Cassie. That's Olympic Runner. But you look at that last effort in the King Edward Stakes, and really that was just a great performance, just rating off the pace, taking the rail, and then just swallowing up the competition, including Admiralty Pier. I think if March to the Arch runs back to that race, going to be very tough in this spot. This is the one place, however, where I think 5-2, I think this horse is going to float up a little bit. And I wanted to talk about the morning line here. We've talked about value proposition getting a lot of action. I still think Sheryl Spite will get that Canadian action because we talked about Chad Brown, and obviously the Americans are going to look at a Chad Brown horse with a 6-1 morning line and a turf stake and go, ooh. But the Canadians are going to do the same thing with Roger Attfield, and a horse that Roger Attfield was playing up as a serious Kentucky Derby contender. And I think that plays a major factor. I mean, Roger Attfield, pretty much the royalty of Canadian training, and if he thinks a horse is good enough for the Derby,
well, not just the Derby, not just the Derby, but the Derby featuring a horse like Tis the Law, who we thought we were going to just see as, you know, putting together a historic campaign right there. So, I mean, to your point, he wasn't just thinking this horse could take on the classic itself, the Kentucky Derby mile quarter being a classic race, but the likes of Tis the Law.
And with a horse that was so green that we saw a 6-horse combined work 3 weeks before the Derby, where the horse had to contend with various hurdles placed before it, basically in terms of keeping pace with horses, then moving to the next pack, and then passing a final pack. It was very interesting to go back and rewatch that work. Obviously, there have been a couple works since, but that obviously stood off the page because that was a mile work on the dirt training surface at Woodbine, and a friendly reminder that there is a world-class dirt training surface at Woodbine. We see a lot of synthetic works. We see some turf works occasionally, but there is a dirt track that the horses can train on. So Shirl Spite definitely has some upward mobility and would be my 4th pick in this race. But my 3rd pick is Value Proposition. And again, it's another case where we've got a now 4-year-old, but didn't really start until mid 3-year-old campaign, royally bred, and obviously I think being a Ridgeling got a little bit of a late start. But has looked very impressive. And I think really you can dismiss, as we talked about when we looked at the backtrack of the poker, I think you can dismiss a lot of the trouble there with the bumping and nudging and wanting to kind of bear in a little bit. I think with the horses potentially being a little more spread in this race, and obviously the expanse of the EP Taylor at Woodbine, I don't see those problems again. So those are my top 3. In terms of wagering and on big days like this, I am multi-race exotic man. So there is a $100,000 guaranteed pick 5 that starts in race 6 and ends in this race, and there's a $100,000 guaranteed pick 4 that starts in race 7 and ends in this race. And there's a $200,000 guaranteed pick 4 that starts in this race. So this is keyed up, as it should be at Woodbine, one of their big races in pretty much every exotic wager they can offer of the multi-race variety. This race is in it, and it should be a good one.
Nice.
I thought you were going to come with a graphic again. And just,
no,
not today. It's been a busy week.
BYOG was, I think I could only get away with that on this show once.
No, I mean, you're invited to do it anytime. Cliff is asking for undercard picks. I don't know if you have any, but I'll open it up to you. I want to say that one of our other viewers here, William Watson, does weigh in with Amsden, race 3 on Saturday. I believe it's a Wesley Ward trainee earlier in the card. So there's one for you. And we just shared in our comment section some best bets of the weekend, including some long shots at Woodbine by the Parlay Queen, Monique Bogg at Woodbine. So you've got that in the comment section. Click on those and go to americasbestracing.net for more plays at Woodbine on the weekend. JD, you did mention in particular when you were talking about March to the Arch, the race last out, the King Edward Stakes, and I absolutely loved him in that race, and I love March to the Arch for the same reason why I find a lot of appeal and value proposition. There are certain horses who, when you just look at them run visually, it just feels like they need a little while to get going. And just, again, the configuration of the EP Taylor turf course, it suits itself to horses that might look like plotters at other tracks, or who just always kind of find trouble. It just feels like a right fit sometimes. And it did with March to the Arch, even though he'd had a prior win at Woodbine. And so I'm going to make a case ultimately, and I'll make it after this 9th race at Woodbine tonight. I'm going to make a case for Admiralty Pier, but I wanted to do another Woodbine backtrack to the King Edward. You'll see that Admiralty Pier is on the rail, on the lead, and then you'll see March to the Arch get some clear running room and go by.
Admiralty Pier taken on by Silent Poet, and they're clear of Mr. Ritz down the outside. It's Admiralty Pier fighting tooth and nail, however. March to the Arch is wriggling through the... might beat them all. March to the Arch rattling home on the outside, and March to the Arch is grabbing Admiralty Pier in the final furlong and really has come alive beautifully for Rafael Hernandez. Wins the King 80 by 2 lengths. March to the Arch from Admiralty Pier, Silent Poet, and Mr. Ritz.
Can you guys make your R's roll like that?
I can.
Go for it.
Rafael Hernandez. I'm I'm also looking at the horses going out under the trash for this last race.
JD, you're up.
I was gonna say it was a very disappointing effort for Mr. Ritz in fourth place in that race.
Nice.
Who was being pointed to the Woodbine Mile, and
Yes.
they veered off of that course after that performance.
Well,
Nobody likes the horse. I think is interesting here. Well, I mean, I see it.
In what? In this race or in the Woodbine Mile?
Everybody's on the 5, King of the Ring, which makes sense.
I have a nutty double-digit odds horse that I like in this race. I'm wondering
get
if
nutty.
Around the same one? Go. You tell me first. I'll tell you.
By the way,
first.
2 scratches in here, by the way. The 1, Give Me an Eye, and the 11, Secret Roy are out of the race. 9-horse race. Go ahead. Give us something nutty.
The 4, Animal Crackers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Animal Crackers was one of my plays back in the day, and obviously he didn't come through for me, and he's yet to make the winner's circle. He's come close, 3/4 of the length close to doing it. But no, I mean, there's a lot of reason to like him. He looks really nice too. I just saw him walk out of the saddling enclosure. I landed on Prince Martheus.
Okay.
Because I thought that debut. A horse can definitely move forward off getting a 50 buyer on debut running on the turf. He's green. He's by Carpe Diem by Giant's Causeway out of Queen Martha by Rahi. Now he's going to be trying synthetic, stretching out to 7 furlongs. But he's got a nice pedigree because the Dam, she was second in the Lady Secrets of Stakes place, but she's also a half to multiple Grade 3 winner, clearly a queen who won the Violet, the Edentown, and the Matchmaker Stakes. So there's some stakes class in there. And I don't know, he's been gelded since, so the ultimate equipment change just might help him out.
I know I stole your thunder, Dan, because I think you were on Animal Crackers as well, were you?
A little bit, but I do have a couple of others that I like. I'm probably going to make a win bet here. We'll see what the odds are looking like as we get closer to post time. But I do like Final Strike, the 3-horse at 5-1. I had Animal Crackers underneath. With Final Strike, and it looks like Steve Bayan is still listed as the rider here as far as I can tell, even though he had a spill earlier and I think missed a couple of his mounts. He might actually be back to ride this race because I don't see any other new rider listed. And he was actually pretty pivotal in the last race. He got a little bit of speed out of this one. That was going longer, and the horse is now cutting back, but takes a drop in class. And you look at the 2 prior races, it's a horse who drew wide, traveled wide, had excuses. And I think given the lack of other speed in here, any major obvious speed, I think he could be well positioned to run a big one. He's in much better form, certainly, than he was last year. And I think, again, when you factor in that class relief, he seems to be one who has a real shot here. 5-1 looks nice. I mean, I liked 8-1 a lot better, but I'll certainly take 5-1. I'll make a bet here on Final Strike. King of the Ring, you got to respect. Look, the horse missed by a nose, going 6.5 on the Tapeta. And, in that race was shuffled back early, dropped way, way, way back. And that's the horse's issue. He's going to be off the screen early. And if there's no pace, what happens? He's benefited from a lot of really fast paces in his previous races. So what happens here? I think he's going to be there, though. He's just so honest. He's always coming from way, way, way off the pace. And so I think King of the Ring will factor in some form. And then behind them, I used the 4 and the 10, the one you mentioned, Animal Crackers, and I thought the 10, Stormy Egbert, I thought was, just had a curious look as one who's, is going to run a decent race. I mean, there's nothing that jumps out at me, but this is a horse who will be probably stalking, is taking a drop in class, is going to just be in the mix by nature of his running style. And I think given the fact that he's getting some class relief here, first time at this level as well, was beaten 2 lengths at maiden 25 on debut. I think the horse is going to be in the mix, and you got to respect him. He's 14-1, which for me is that seems like a crazy overlay given some of the other horses in this field and the fact that this horse hasn't been that far off against tougher. So I don't know. That's my take on that one. Yeah.
What you're saying also, Prince Martheus is also getting class relief coming out, a main optional claimer for 40. And, again, it was 6 furlongs on the turf. He had some trouble in that race. He had to be steadied in the race. And if you look at the half, it was 44-4. I mean, that's his first start. Like I said, I think he can really move forward off something like that. I know he's 25-1 that day also, so people didn't have a lot of faith in him, but he did show a little gumption to at least get within 2.5 lengths of the pace setter when, it was just a really fast race. And like I said, you're dropping now all the way down to maiden 15, trying a different surface, getting a stretch out, and you have black type pedigree. Going off at Buzzing right now, 8-1. It's very attractive.
Yeah, I like you coming in with that pedigree analysis as well, because when I looked at this horse, I initially sort of overlooked the horse, and I'm glad you gave me a reason to use Prince Martheus underneath in my supers, and hopefully Prince Martheus doesn't beat me. But I'm playing a couple of supers with Final Strike on top. With some of the other horses we mentioned. I'm definitely going to use Prince Martheus because, again, you're looking at a horse you mentioned has only raced once, was in against Tougher, comes back gelded off a couple months break. And so, look, this horse might show up a completely different horse. And
yeah, there's not going to be any heir to that throne. Do you think King of the Ring is a Lord of the Rings?
Oh, that was a beautiful transition. That was just a beautiful transition.
I know, because I felt like maybe I went too far, so I needed to pull it back.
No, it's really hard to go too far on this show.
Okay, good.
It really is hard to go too far on the show. Our buddy SPN checks in here with Red Astaire.
I did look at that horse too. I did. I thought he was very interesting, actually.
Yeah, we haven't given that horse too much love. I mean, I was worried the horse would be a short price because of Stein. This one was beaten less than 2 lengths of the distance over the Tapeta against Tougher 2 back. But one of the horses who beat him, of course, was King of the Ring. He turned the tables on King of the Ring last out, but that was going a mile on the turf surface where I think Red Astaire might be better. He's certainly in good form, gets the top jock, is probably going to factor in some way or another. I'll regret, trying to beat him. But I wasn't excited about this horse.
Gotcha.
JD?
Yeah, I'm done with my discreet Arizona betting, which is the least discreet betting that humanly is possible. But yeah, no, I think you look at King of the Ring, and you either need to like King of the Ring and Red Astaire together as a package, and take the better price, or you have to look elsewhere. And I'm looking elsewhere for some value. They've been going up against each other and trading blows back and forth. And obviously, I'm liking a horse in Animal Crackers that has lost to both of them twice, but it's been the efforts that look weird on the page. Like something happened. There's some excuses there. The 2 solid efforts this season for Animal Crackers, I think, win this race. But we have 2 other races that kind of leave your head scratching. So that's why we're seeing the horse from a 9-2 morning line drift up below double digits now at 7-1.
Yeah, just took a couple of quick hits down to 7-1. Was 14-1 a few moments ago. King of the Ring, 9-5, still holding steady there. Ren's call there with the 2 horse, 8-1, Prince Martheus. Yeah. The one I like, Final Strike, 6-1. Still, as I look up at the sports, 17-1, I think is very, very appealing when it comes to Stormy Egbert. Then again, I don't know what it says that the horse is that cold on the board while dropping down. Is there an obvious reason for this drop here? And for that reason, the horse is not taking any money. I don't know. But I certainly thought we'd see a shorter price on Stormy Egbert than 16-1. So we'll see if that moves much. Creative Force is an interesting one. The 9 horse, 10-1 down to 8-1. I was kind of I had the same sort of feelings about this one as I did about King of the Ring, and that, he's a deep closer, is pace dependent, and he's going to pass some horses late. I just don't think he's as good of a closer as King of the Ring is, and I'm already a little lukewarm on King of the Ring, so I passed up on that one. As they're going into the gate, Ren, any interest in first-time starter Sweet Little Artie by We Miss Artie? Yes, yay or nay? Huh?
Nay.
Nay, okay.
Nay. I mean, those are so many works without having gotten a start in. And then you debut at 15. So it's not even a matter of pedigree anymore. It's just sort of trying to read between the lines of they just weren't seeing anything with this horse. And I don't know. I mean, he's already gelded before they even started. He's starting as a 3-year-old. If this was a 2-year-old, I might say, oh, well, maybe it was because of the corona situation. So he was in a holding pattern a bit, looking for the right spot. But this isn't a maiden special weight. This is a maiden 15. You're coming into gelding. You're 3 years old. Nah, I pass.
First time starter for the trainer in over a year. I mean, there's lots of things that just scream that we're putting this horse in the winner's circle.
64-1 right now on that one. Sweet Little Artie. Your favorite is King of the Ring. Even money. Our horses are 2, 3, and 4. Let's see what happens.
Showing out nicely, Red Astaire, and on the inside coming through is Prince Matthias as they settle into stride. Racing towards the pace now is in the center, Society Misfit. On the outside, Creative Force lying in 5th, and then Animal Crackers, Sweet Little Artie, back to second last. Final Strike, King of the Ring. 3 lengths away is Absolute Last. Shooting out in front, it is Stormy Egbert, a length and a half, and now getting across towards the inside. Society Misfit second, Red Astaire third. Caught a bit wide, Creative Force.
This horse steals this race at 23-1. I'm going
to
bang my head against the wall.
King of the Ring coming up on the extreme outside at the back.
Yeah, my horse is backing out. He's like, no, thank you, I'm done.
Stormy Egbert by 2 lengths. Second, Society Misfit, after Red Astaire, back up the rail. Prince
there's no place for your horse
on the
for a
outside.
second.
No. Some horses hate the rail and they get intimidated.
Outside, winding up. Final Strike tacks on and is coming home well. And last of all, at this point, Sweet Little Artie and dashing right away. Stormy Egbert trying to steal this one. Kazushi Kimura out by 3 lengths. Down in the center is Red Astaire. On the inside, Society Misfit. And King of the Ring has a ton of work, but Stormy Egbert by 3 or 4 lengths. Red Astaire is in second, and down the center of the track, Final Strike, and nothing really making enough impact, and a very, well, I'd say cheeky ride, a good one. Kazushi Kimura gets the hat trick.
Unbelievable.
Stole it by 3 or 4 lengths.
Hey,
unbelievable.
I'm looking at it this way, Dan. If there were 2 more races on this card, we'd be good, because I gave out a 4th place and a 3rd place, so there was only room to improve.
I just made a case for this horse at 23-1. I put no win money on him, and I played a super key box where I used him, but I removed Red Astaire, and I had all the rest of them. I had Animal Crackers, and I would have hit that. This super is going to pay just bonkers money.
You didn't bump him because of me, I hope.
What's that?
You didn't bump him because of me, right?
No, I just didn't like Red Astaire. I was like, I was barely going to use King of the Ring, and if anything, I should have said,
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I should have said, you know what, like King of the Ring. I wasn't that hot on myself, like. Why I used King of the Ring and not Red Astaire was silly, but yeah.
I almost feel like these races are the hardest races because when they've already run a bunch of times, it just means there are so many variables at play of why these horses are not breaking the maiden. So that's why often you will see it just become a complete, and this isn't a reference to the horses. I'm just, it's like a crapshoot. Because it's funny things can happen. I mean, there's only so much that you can glean where it does make sense when it's just gotten to this level of like, well, how many starts have this? I mean, this horse's 6th go at this point, and he showed like not much incentivizing to warrant being super keen on him, and it makes sense. Although he was 6-1 on the morning line, went off at 23-1, which is interesting with Kimura aboard, but he was taking the class drop. Still, I mean, he just wasn't showing much class, but the buyers aren't particularly exciting either.
Yeah, you can kind of throw that out the window in a race like this. Here's hoping maybe Red Astaire gets DQ'd for some unknown reason, and I hit a super for $3,000 on a Friday.
Beer's on you, or I don't drink beer actually.
So here, this is great. Not using 23-1 is why they make Labatt's Blue and Molson. Exactly. Cliff giving me credit. I appreciate it. I hope you did something with it, unlike me, who did not make money on the pick. And I know that if Emily was here, she would completely be just dragging me because that's the beauty of this show. We get to react to the odds in real time and make our bets and show how we adjust
and that you didn't do it.
In real time. I didn't make the adjustment. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm off today. I'm off. So I didn't make the adjustment.
That reminds me when I decided on Mighty Heart having a chance in the Queen's Plate about a minute before the breaks. I give it out on the air, and because I'm in Arizona and it takes me at least 3 minutes to bet, no chance there.
We've gotten a good bit of handicapping and analysis on the Woodbine Mile from Ren and J.D. As I mentioned, I was going to save my pick for last, not because it's the best by any stretch of the imagination.
I'm joking.
But just because, I think you all made great points in setting the race up and kind of explaining it from a pace perspective. And I think this race sets up one of two ways. Either Admiralty Pier does get out to a loose lead. I know that's what they're hoping for and opting to run the horse here. And they're obviously going for a lot more money in this race. If that happens, Admiralty Pier, I think, will be extremely tough. I think could potentially wire them, even though he did run just a huge race last out. I'm going to scroll, put on the bottom there some of my my trifecta selection for tomorrow. But look, his last 3 races, all 98 buyers, 1 Grade 3 win, 2 second-place finishes. The race last out, we showed you the very end of it. What you didn't see was what happened earlier in the race, which was truly incredible. It was a 3-way go. He did a half in 46 and 1, 3/4 in 109 and 1. As I said, most of it with company. And he still had kick late, holding off everyone except for March to the Arch. To me, I'm not going to assume that Charles Spide is just going to go on, just this, hell-bent speed mission just to try to wear down Admiralty Pier, who I don't think many people visualize as being sort of the main threat here. I think most people think, well, War of Will. That's a pretty good horse. March to the Arch won the King Edward last out. That's another one. I think, I'm not saying they're going to completely forget about this horse up front, but I think Admiralty Pier, if he gets loose, represents the best potential value in this race. Value proposition, all the same points you made. March to the Arch, I've loved for a while, and as I said, I think this track really does suit the horse. Let's see. Do we have? Oh yeah, we have one more gift for Ren. We talked about your favorite horse, War of Will, and so we do have a Woodbine Backtrack to the Maker's Mark Mile.
I love him. I mean, I know we all love super dominant wins, but the fact that, coming in that blanket finish, that he still gutted it out, because a lot of horses can get intimidated and back up. I mean, we just saw, I know it's a completely different class, but for example, when a horse gets intimidated, just even being on the rail in his own space can get intimidated. Here he's coming in and he still asserts himself. And I think he's just a cool horse. I do think he has an alpha mentality, and I like that I think the pace scenario my mind sets up for him, because I know we're talking about Admiralty Pier. You think he's potentially just going to go out there and whatnot. And what I said about Charles Spide, I don't necessarily think that he's going to get the jump on him, but I do think he's a horse that we can draft off because it looks like he can rate just fine. But I do think that whatever happens, will be close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's another scenario, right? And Marcus Hirsch from the DRF tweeted earlier in response to me saying, "Can Admiralty Pier wire?" That he thought that it was War of Will, if anything, who would keep Admiralty Pier honest. And I think that's very possible. I mean, look, you look at that Maker's Mark Mile. War of Will was within 2 lengths of 23, 46, and 4 and 111. I mean, granted, not as fast in that third quarter as the race that I just referenced, but he's a horse who's got class. You saw him call on the class there late to win the Maker's Mark Mile. I just wonder if, and I'm not saying this field is better than that field, but you've got like the Starship Jubilees of the world, the March to the Arch. I mean, these are horses who have a ton of class as well, and if maybe they're not as likely to, I don't want to say that those horses like Parlor came back to War of Will, but maybe they're not as likely to give it up as as those other horses did in the Maker's Mark Mile. Again, it's sort of a judgment call. I mean, do you think that, going a mile on the turf is right up War of Will's alley?
Yeah.
Does it have to be? Does it have to be in this race in particular? When, as we've talked about, we've sung the praises of Value Proposition, a horse who seems to be sitting on a big race for Chad Brown, and then we talked to the class of Starship Jubilee and March to the Arch. So I don't know. Ren and I will be live tomorrow with on the Breeders' Cup channels, BC Live, a special Rico Woodbine Mile edition. We'll also have a couple of other guests joining us. Those guests, I can give it away. Dan Illman from the Daily Racing Forum will be with us. Well, how about you tell us about our big
Well, hopefully all technical, logical mountains hurdled. We're gonna have David Carroll, assistant trainer to Mark Cassie, on. You've probably seen me do a lot of interviews with David. He's awesome. He has a very intimate connection to Will. He's overseen Will, extensively. In fact, his wife Kim rides Will in the morning. So it's a family affair with them all. They lovingly call him William. And we also have the acronym of WOW, which obviously makes sense. And if I, again, can, as a petty geek, if I can just plug one more time the fact that you're talking about it makes so much sense here. Your son of Warfront, who Warfront himself was a dirt horse, yes, but still, your dam is by Sadler's Wells. Sadler's Wells was a champion miler himself, although he could get more ground than that too. But then again, Visions of Clarity herself, the dam of War of Will, 3/4 sister to Spinning World, second in the 96 Breeders' Cup Mile, champion in 97. And we've seen just how classy this pedigree is, that Will could become a dual Grade 1 winner, winning on dirt and now. Yeah, why not?
I think that was Greg just giving you a little bit of an extra, some extra love.
No, but I mean, this is the thing. I mean, when you have a horse, I mean, from my perspective, as somebody who does look at pedigree so extensively, you want to see, what does the paper tell me this horse should look like? Not only conformationally, but just in every way, because class generally, when you have a pedigree that's as deep as Will, and I'm going to say straight up, this is not hyperbole, Will has one of the deepest, classiest pedigrees you can find. He really does. And so that's why part of me, I'm like super stoked to see him go to stud whenever that does happen. But
do you like this horse, War of Will, at all?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, the bottom line, all I'm saying is like, when you see that reflected, and then you have that type of same guts and tenacity that the family relationships had and shown consistently, that's the key. It just makes him all the more exciting. So I would love to see him become the heir apparent and getting another Grade 1 and then going on into the Breeders' Cup.
Well, we'll hear a lot more again from David Carroll tomorrow, who spends a lot of time with the horse on Breeders' Cup Live tomorrow, 4:30 Eastern on Breeders' Cup and ABR social media channels. We'll also have Bram Weinstein with us, who is one of the new voices of the Washington football team.
Wow, isn't he the voice?
One of them. I'm assuming there are multiple people. I think there are multiple new people in the.
Well, in my mind, he's the voice.
Well, in our hearts, he is the voice. But he brought him some luck last week, and they actually started out 1-0. I believe they are the only team that's 1-0 right now in the NFC East, which is quite shocking. JD, since we've done a lot of the talking here, and we've got more talking to do a little later on, I want to give you the last word and let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'll talk quickly in Starship Jubilee, and I just want to remind people about the story here, because I think Ren gave a good story of War of Will and why you can root for War of Will, and I'm going to just kind of do a quick version of Starship Jubilee, and it's not going to be anything on the pedigree standpoint, but just going to talk about, this was a $6,500 sales purchase, OBS, August of 2014, started at maiden claiming, broke the maiden at maiden claiming, tried allowance company, eventually ran in back-to-back $16,000 claimers at Gulfstream Park, and we're sitting here, $1.6 million, trying the boys for the second time in the career, trying for her first berth in the Breeders' Cup. I mean, I think a lot of Canada is going to be pulling for Starship Jubilee, and I'm going to be pulling right alongside of them.
Oh, that's a cool story for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, look.
And then following me, it was a 2-part question, Dan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let people know where to find you for more of this stuff.
Yes.
So at Horse Tickets on Twitter, you can find Champagne and JD on YouTube. It's a video podcast, long form video podcast, and we try to have some interesting people this week. We had Jennifer Kelly, who's written the great book on Sir Barton and is currently working on the Foxes of Bel Air. I mean, no wonder why she was on the podcast.
Yeah.
Gallant Fox in Omaha. So that was a great 40 minutes talking horse racing history, and then we talk a little bit about this race this week. But be sure
you didn't
to
say it the
tune in
right
and
way.
subscribe.
You didn't. You gotta go Omaha.
Omaha.
There you go.
Peyton Manning.
All right.
I'm sorry. I'm just a corn dog. I can't help myself.
Well, there's plenty more to come.
That's right. Oh, buckle up, Buttercups, because we're bringing it tomorrow.
Well, I mean, look, I David Carroll knows how. Like, I've seen you fangirl for in front of Shug McGahee and Todd Pletcher. Pletcher, not so much. Definitely McGahee.
Oh my gosh, you know, I'm sorry, not to cut you off. You know what I should have said? I know I showed you the photo of me kissing Orwell. I should have.
There you go.
I should have sent you the one. I kid you. So I was at Keeneland last spring, and Will was there, and I went and I bugged David like I usually do when I'm in town. So I'm like, hey. So when I saw Will, and he snorted on me and got booger. He got boogers. So I took a photo hey, check it. And then when he won the Preakness, I was like, okay, well that makes the picture all the more noteworthy.
What if I just put this photo up over you every time you're talking tomorrow to David Carroll?
I think you should totally do that. That should just be my screen the entire time. He's so sweet. I love William. I held him like that for a good couple of minutes.
That's the winning nose.
I'm like a horse whisperer. I am.
All right, we will see you at 4:30 tomorrow. We're going to send you off with a quick reminder to make all your bets on Dark Horse.
That's right.
Right.